Herb Cohen. I'm presenting here in this video some rapid grounding techniques to help people move out of being stuck in emotional, distressful states that are uncomfortable, distressful, that they don't want to be in. And these techniques involve working with energy. Sometimes it has to do with just changing our brain rapidly and getting to a peaceful, grounded state rapidly. So these techniques can be used with anyone. I use them in my trauma practice where rapid grounding is really needed to provide resiliency as well as immediate comfort until we get to the point where we can go deep and do the deeper work with the more powerful therapies that are indicated. So this first technique is using energy. And what we need to understand, the first actually two techniques work with energy. And what we need to understand is that both emotions and physical pain are utilizing energy in our body. So we metabolize emotions and pain through energetic structures in our body. And those structures in our body work with us to help us express and relieve and experience pain. And pain is both emotional and physical pain are warning systems and teachers. They're there to let us know that there's something we need to pay attention to. And in that sense, if we understand that there's a lesson when it comes to emotional pain, we can really move forward in our life if we look at our challenges as lessons as opposed to just labeling it as suffering. So the first technique I call pause. And basically what I do is I ask people, and I usually practice the techniques with the person in my office with their own distress. So I don't hand them a piece of paper with the tools listed on them until after we're done, and then they can have the instructions to refer to. But I have people practice the technique in my office so that they can see with evidence of their own story that it works. So the first technique is called pause. And what we do is we ask someone to bring up some distress. And then we ask them to take that from here and bring it downstairs, bring it down into the body. And in the body, they'll point out where they feel it is strongest. They may point to a place in their solar plexus or their heart, let's say. So what we want to do is now we create an intention for energy. Energy listens to intention. If I create the intention that my hand is a vacuum, and let's say it's right here in my solar plexus, I'm going to put my hand here, and I'm going to imagine that I'm vacuuming all that distress right into the palm of my hand, and I scoop it into a very tight fist. I'm gathering all of that distressful energy. That is my intention. And I'm saying that to myself. I'm gathering all of that energy, all of it. Now I have a tight fist. It's all in my fist. And I'm going to make another intention, which is to rip it out. I'm not going to just take it out like this casually, because energy doesn't understand what that is. Energy likes drama. So we're going to rip it out like that. Very dramatic. The more dramatic, the more clear it is as an intention. And then we throw it away because we don't need it anymore. We have the person go back and check in. If they can feel still stuff there, we do it again. Sometimes the energy moves to a different location. It may move to their throat. We'll grab it up, vacuum it, grab it into a fist, pull it out, and throw it away. And we do this till there's no more energy, no more sensation, until it's clear. Sometimes it's clear the first time they do it, and that's fine. So what we then do is we just wait a few seconds. They notice that they're no longer in distress, and then I ask them to reactivate the same distress. And you will see that it's very difficult to reactivate. Sometimes people can bring up the idea of the distress, but they can't activate the feeling. They can't bring it back. It's as if it's blocked. We remove the energy of that distress, and it can no longer manifest. This is temporary. All these interventions I'm presenting are temporary. They're interventions. They're meant to stop what's going on right at the moment, intervene, change the lens, so that we can even use other techniques like add mindfulness to this to prolong it and make it even longer lasting. Okay? This technique partners with awareness very well. If we can get someone into an awareness state, noticing their breath, noticing the air, noticing things around them, that's going to prolong feeling good, okay? Not feeling the suffering that they just got rid of. The next technique I got to lose my chair for is a more physical technique.
Herb Cohen again. I'm going to demonstrate the Ha technique now. There's two parts to this. There's the physical movement and there's the breathing technique. Let me show the physical movement first as best as I can. I can't see my whole body, but what I'm doing is I'm bending my knees and I'm sinking my feet to the ground. I'm bringing all my weight down into the ground. I'm going to inhale and I'm going to make fists out of my arms. I want the back part of my fists, I'm just going to come closer, the back part of my fists facing forward, okay? And I'm going to be throwing them down, literally throwing them down. So let me just show you. So I'm coming up with my heels, all my weight is coming up, my fists are coming up, and I'm going to throw them down, and as I come down, I'm whipping my hands down, my heels are slamming to the ground because my weight is all coming down. So it's sort of like skiing. It's like pushing those ski poles down. And it's throwing my weight down. I'm throwing those fists down. The breathing part of this is exhaling fully with our breath. So as we throw our hands down, we're exhaling completely through our mouth, and then we're squeezing the last bit of breath out by snapping our diaphragm. So it sounds like this. At the end, I'm snapping the diaphragm to get the sound out. So I'm inhaling deeply. I'm filling my belly with air. I'm doing that in slow motion to show you. So it's a snapping of the breath, and that way I'm getting that vocalization out. Okay? So it's snapping the vocalization out by snapping my diaphragm, and that's forcing all the energy out of my solar plexus. Let's see what it looks like. And putting it all together. That's a ha. So doing that 4 or 5 times, you will feel it in your diaphragm. You'll feel that gut snapping. And you will feel a tremendous surge of energy after 4 or 5 of those. And you will feel, like I said, a lot of people will even break up laughing, experiencing that. So give it a whirl.
Is using writing. So we can write 5 sentences, let's say, decent sentences, not 3-word sentences. We write them down. So let's say I've got my sentences, and I write them down, 5 sentences, and it doesn't matter what the content is. I can use any content I want, I want to just get that going. I'm moving resources from my limbic brain into my frontal cortex. This is where I want to go. This part of my brain, the limbic brain, is in the middle. That hacked me. So if I'm feeling distress and I'm upset, it means that my resources are all in the middle of the brain. Usually when people have anxiety, they have trouble thinking or focusing. That's because there's no resources here anymore. They're all gone to the middle. So we're going to hack them back. So by writing 5 sentences, we're reintroducing people to the frontal cortex. However, we got to create some effort in this mix to change our brain, because that's the ingredient of brain change, is effort. So what we do is we take those same sentences that we just wrote, and we write them by spelling the words in reverse. So the same sentences, but we spell each word in reverse. So we keep the order of the sentence, but we spell the words in reverse. This will be very difficult initially. It will get easier. And by the 5th sentence, we'll be writing backwards fluently, as if we've done it our whole life. That is because our frontal cortex will now be gorged with resources, and we will also be emotionally neutral, because we've just shut down that limbic brain. So this technique works really, really well, and people can try it out, and you'll see how well it works. Really amazing. Another technique is also working with the energy of emotion, is dropping into our belly. So we're now not noticing where it lights up, but we're deliberately taking it into the body and we're bringing it into our belly. And what we do is we get a spin going. And it could be to the left, it could be to the right. It doesn't matter. As long as we get a really rapid spin going, we get a strong, steady spin going with it, and we're imagining it spinning really strong and steady. And then what we do is we ask that energy to spin the opposite direction. When it spins the opposite direction, very difficult to do, by the way, there's the effort. That's our brain changing. And guess what? We get it going the other way. Finally, with great effort, we will be neutral. What's good about that is no one needs to know you're doing it, and it is pretty quick. It's pretty almost instantaneous. So there's a couple of techniques there that work very rapidly. 4-4-8 breathing is inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, and exhaling for 8 seconds. This is the way people smoke cigarettes. It's also the way people do Qigong and Tai Chi. They use a breath where we inhale, we hold the breath in our belly, and then we release it really slowly as we move. We link that with movement in Tai Chi and Qigong. However, smokers, on the other hand, smoke their cigarettes by taking an inhalation. They hold their breath briefly, and then they watch the smoke as they exhale slowly. And you're basically doing a 4-4-8 breathing. And people tell me when they come to me to quit smoking that the reason they smoke is to feel calm. Ironically, that cigarettes calm them. And ironically, cigarettes have chemicals that speed their speed. It speeds up our heart rate, and our pulse gets elevated, which is not calming. Our heart rate races, and cigarettes release 2 hours of cortisol per cigarette. Those are stress chemicals. They're not calming at all. Yet, after 4-minute smoke of a cigarette, people will tell you they are indeed calm, despite all this scientific evidence that shows that cigarettes are actually stressful to smoke. What's happening here is that 4-4-8 breathing, the exhale of 8 seconds is twice the inhale of 4 seconds on purpose. It's activating our parasympathetic nervous system. That's calming. Also, any kind of rhythmic breathing creates a heart rate coherence in which our heart rate is actually shifting. And physiologically, our body is going into a calming mode. It's going into a parasympathetic mode. Endorphins in the brain, relaxing chemicals, are actually produced and expressed in that 4 minutes. This is a physiological change. I've watched people in full panic go to calm in doing 4-4-8 breathing. The body physically has to change. Now, how powerful is this? Well, I just described to you what a cigarette smoker experiences. 2 hours of cortisol, racing heart rate, increased blood pressure, everything that you would experience in a stressful moment. Despite all the chemical changes of a cigarette, 4-4-8 breathing of smoking the cigarette has a calming effect, and that's what people are doing. They believe that the cigarette is doing that. It's actually their breathing that is doing that. So there you go, 4-4-8 breathing, a surefire technique that if people can do that for 3 or 4 minutes, then they will be calm, and that will take care of that anxiety. Or even if they run the red light and they're not doing it early and they're in full-blown panic, this can bring them down. Okay? So we can always bring people out of panic. People are never really stuck. People will feel like they're stuck. They feel like it's going to be like that forever, and that's just not true. We can change the brain, and we can bring people out of those states very quickly if we know how to do it. If someone has an anger management issue, they can use the Ha technique to release anger, and prophylactically. So like I have people do this when they get up in the morning. So we're getting rid of this energy in our solar plexus right away. We don't want to store that and have it build and then explode on someone later in the day. Instead, let's just empty out our solar plexus when we start the day. It gives us energy. It gets us going. We feel great. It's even great at 3 o'clock in the afternoon after lunch when we start to feel that sugar crash from eating lunch. We start to feel low energy. We want to go to sleep. We need a cup of coffee or something. We can do Ha's instead, and it will just totally energize us and get us going for the rest of the day without having to do anything else. So I hope you enjoy and use these techniques. I have so many resources, and I hope that you will be open to checking out my other trainings and resources that I have. See you soon.